Ensign Zenith reporting in.
Anything of note for the past month?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I've kept an eye on both of them, and aside from a few quirks here and there, they don't seem very suspicious.
He may be right, but something strikes me as odd about this whole thing, and I can't for the life of me figure out what it is. The sequence of events just doesn't add up. Feels like we're missing something.
The more I think about it, the timing is convenient too. Still, they seem perfectly harmless to me. They're very good cats, and they've helped out on the show a lot this past year.
Oh, there you are, Zen. I've been looking all over for... Oh my god, is that Linkara?
Zenith, who's that?
Oh, well, he's my editor. His name is Filip.
Hey there, nice to meet you.
He's also the jerk who's forcing me to watch The Big Bang Theory.
Hey, I'm not forcing you to watch anything. You were the one who suggested we cover it after I said it wasn't as bad as you think.
Yeah, but it's a better cover-up if I say you're forcing it upon me. I swear that show's gonna be the death of me.
No, it really won't. Don't be so dramatic, Zen.
Well, in any case, don't worry, Linkara. He's with me.
Okay, I get that, but why is he here in my house?
Oh, well, you see, I was coming to ask Zen if there was anything in particular she wanted added to the schedule when suddenly the two of us were transported away. I didn't know what the deal was at first, but now seeing you, I can kind of put two and two together.
Well, I do suppose it's about time I get going. Oh, and to answer your question, Filip, add a Halloween 1978 review for the 31st of October. We're approaching Halloween after all, and it would make a good series to dive into each year.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, to that end, do you want to play a spooky-ass game to get in the spirit of Halloween? I have just the perfect co-op game that we could both play.
I don't know. I wasn't really planning on playing the Saw games until after covering a few of the movies.
What? No, I'm talking about Monster Prom.
I mean, that's not really spooky per se.
But it is monster-related. Plus, it has a bunch of cute lesbians.
Well, I do love me some cute lesbians. Alright, you son of a bitch. I'm in.
Sweet. Oh, and I'm joining you for this one.
What? Why?
Because I know more about the game than you do. Plus, I've been looking for a chance to get to show my stuff on your channel. So, how about it?
Fine, but don't forget, you're editing the episode. I don't want to hear you complaining that this episode is too long when you have to edit all the different puppet rigs.
No worries. Also, dibs on playing as Vicky.
Ah, damn it. Anyway, that's all I have for now, Linkara. We'll have to see if Aaron knows any legends that involve talking cats or anything else related. But, I don't know. They really are good cats. Kana is always there when I'm feeling down and gives me games to review. Hell, Chiaki even helps out with the cooking. Admittedly, it's usually salmon, but she says I need more protein in my diet, and she does have a point. She even made some during...
Something wrong?
Yeah, come to think of it, Chiaki was acting a bit odd during my review of the Daleks.
In what way?
Well, since the transformation, she's the one who keeps Kana in line so she doesn't get in trouble. Like, she stopped Kana from eating my Legos, and in general, she's been an attentive sister to Kana. She's basically the one in charge. She doesn't get in trouble that often, unless Sushi is involved, but when I reviewed the Daleks, she was acting a bit differently. A little more mischievous. She used my credit card without asking, and that's not like her. Admittedly, she used most of the credit to buy salmon for us to eat, which does make sense, but that doesn't explain her other purchases. Yes, I know she has a history of making mischief for salmon, but there's just something fishy about her recent behavior.
I don't know, this doesn't strike me as all that odd. She also had a history of thievery if she did steal my magic coin. Didn't you say she stole to demand sushi? This could just be another ploy for more fish.
I'm not entirely sure about that. It turns out I was wrong about why she took the coin. I asked Chiaki about the coin recently, and she said there was something about it that drew her to it, as if something was whispering to her and controlling her. Since she had no way of speaking up at the time, all she could do was wait for me to take the coin away. When I did, she slept for a week and couldn't remember much of what happened that night. At first, I just wrote it off as a side effect of the coin, but thinking about it now, There's something off about that as well.
You're right. The magic coin is only supposed to affect humans slowly over time, and it was drained before she picked it up. The coin shouldn't have affected anyone, let alone a stray cat. Unless outer gods are corrupted by that coin. I witnessed it myself when the last piece of the entity was sleeping inside me. I don't remember much of that time, but I do remember a whisper in my head.
Yes, I've been thinking about that too. How could the coin affect her unless there was an outer god involved? She's been wonderful for most of this year, her sushi escapades excluded, but her behavior lately is odd. You don't think she's being possessed, do you?
I don't know. It's possible, but we don't have enough information to go on, and it could just be the antics of cats who suddenly have human traits. That transformation is suspicious enough, but possession could explain how they can talk and interact with you now. I'm gonna have to look deeper into this. I'll send what information we have to Aaron and see if it matches any records of outer gods, and in the meantime, I'll talk this over with Harvey and the others. Maybe they'll notice something we've overlooked. Just please be safe for the time being and keep a close eye on them. I don't want another friend getting hurt by the technumina if we can prevent it.
Let's go, Zen. I have a crackhead ghoster romance.
Coming. Well, in any case, I'm heading back to my apartment. We have a monster prom to attend. Send my best to Evelyn and ask how work on that project is coming along.
Will do. 1 to transport. Energize.
Hello everyone, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and welcome once again to Should You Complete This, where I play through one of the numerous different games in my collection and answer the ever-important question, is this game worth completing? And welcome back to another review in Zenoween, where grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize, and sometimes to do a buttload of drugs in the case of Polly. Last time we discussed the Dark Crystal over on Zen Movies. This time, however, I'm joined by a guest to help me review today's game. Introduce yourself, Philip.
Hello, my name is Philip, content creator, editor for hire, and king of ships.
More like king of cutting down dialogue.
You forget I'm editing the video, Zen. Keep droning on and I'ma cut your voice lines.
You wouldn't dare.
Today we're tackling a game from 2018 that was funded via Kickstarter, developed by indie company Beautiful Glitch, and published by those awesome guys and produced by YouTuber Jesse Cox.
While I haven't actually watched any of Jesse's videos, or anything from those awesome guys either, I have seen Jesse in particular appear on the Completionist channel, so it is somewhat interesting to see what he has produced. I always find it cool when a YouTube star produces a game that gets such widespread acclaim. Also, yes, I am a huge fan of the Completionist. I'm sure you never would have guessed.
The name of the game is Monster Prom, the first and, to our knowledge, only multiplayer dating sim in the world. The game was funded back in November of 2016 via Kickstarter, as I mentioned before, where the game managed to gain 1,592 backers who overall raised 32,000 euros to fund the game, quadrupling the initial goal of 8,000 euros and reaching every single one of their stretch goals. Those stretch goals include more secret endings, additional minor NPCs, and DLC adding 2 additional love interests. The DLC came out a year after the game was released in 2018 under the name Monster Prom's Second Term, and on top of that, both the game and its DLC were ported to the Nintendo Switch a year after that in one package with the title Monster Prom XXL.
There really isn't much more history to discuss beyond that, which is unusual for our show, where I usually spend at least 10 to 15 minutes discussing behind the scenes info, but that's pretty much what we have. A YouTube personality wanted to make a game and well exceeded their goal. This is the first independent game that we're covering on this show, but I want to go into it with an open mind. I've played some truly wonderful indie games in the past, and I want to give Jesse, those awesome guys, and Beautiful Glitch as much a chance as any other studio. For the purposes of this video, we will be discussing the Steam version of the game, although Philip has purchased the game on both systems.
Yep, that's right. Honestly, both versions are fine to play and I'd recommend you pick up either. There's only one notable difference which we'll get to later.
With all of that being said, let's put on some dresses and dive into Monster Prom.
In terms of plot, there isn't much to discuss when it comes to Monster Prom. You play as one out of a selection of 4 monsters who go to a high school named Spooky High, a school inhabited by monsters of all kind, whether it be zombies, vampires, mummies, gorgons, werewolves, basically anything but humans. Unless that human is also a ghost, in which case they're also welcome.
It honestly reminds me a bit of Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, since you have all those same monsters represented here. However, instead of trying to stop an evil person from taking over the school, you're just trying to date all the lovely monsters in the school. Yes, it's a visual novel dating sim, but I've never seen one quite like this. To be perfectly honest, dating sims get a bad rap these days, possibly for good reason. Back in the wondrous days of Newgrounds, dating sims were basically all about getting to a point where you briefly get to see these characters naked. Because of how widespread these dating sims were, you didn't mention playing them back then because you would get bullied by kids at school or harassed by your parents. Dating sims have come a long way these days though, with games like Doki Doki Literature Club, Honey Pop, Asagao Academy, and Dream Daddy breaking the mold and going in new directions with the formula. I personally have played the first 2 titles I mentioned and quite enjoyed them. I even reviewed Honey Pop way back on the old channel.
Well, when it comes to me, I tend to be a bit more reluctant when it comes to dating sims. As you mentioned, Zen, all the dating sims were all about getting to see characters naked briefly, with a bunch of them putting the player character in the shoes of the often nameless protagonist. And a lot of these rub me up the wrong way. It is true that dating sims have come a long way since then, but even then, the writing in most dating sims ends up being either way too corny or way too cliche for my liking.
Yeah, I agree. I remember playing a Love Hina dating sim back in high school that was just plain awful because the main character sucked and the writing was simply horrendous.
Essentially, in order for me to enjoy a dating sim, you need to do 2 things. 1, display a certain level of self-awareness, showing that you know exactly what kind of game you're making. And 2, have fun with the whole thing and don't constrain yourself to the bland generic writing of most of the shovelware that swamp up the genre. I did end up liking Honey Pop, but that's because the writing of the game makes it very clear that the makers of it knew the kind of trash they were writing, and they just decided to have fun with it all, making almost every character a snark. And then there's Doki Doki, which I like for other reasons.
In the case of Monster Prom, it definitely falls in line with Honey Pop in terms of being a dating sim that knows what it is and just wants to have fun with itself. In fact, at many times, the writing of the game reads like a parody of a dating sim, with the characters saying some completely ridiculous things, but it works because these are monsters and they don't give a damn. What do they care if they do some immoral or illegal things? They're freaking monsters.
Got that right. If I have problems, I simply burn them. Or punch them. Or both. I don't play by anyone's rules.
And if that doesn't work, I always just get ridiculously high off some high-grade E or some other drug. I'm already dead. Who cares if I get high?
So, in terms of love interests, you have 6 to choose from in the base game. Scott Howell, a dumb as bricks werewolf who's just a big lovable dork. Liam de Lioncourt, a hipster vampire who is obsessed with food pics and Instagram filters. Vera Oberlin, a Gorgon who's as cold and brooding as she is sadistic. Miranda Vanderbilt, a mermaid princess given way too much power and is what would happen if you put a Disney princess in the Stalin years. Damien LeVay, a fire demon from hell who has anger issues and so many swears in his vocabulary that you can find them selling a dictionary of them at your local QBD.
QB what?
It's an Australian thing. And lastly, there's best girl Polly Geist, a party ghost who is addicted to drugs of all kinds since, hey, it's not like they're gonna kill her.
She really is best girl though. She was the first character I romanced in the base game.
How dare you ignore my magnificence? I will have one of my anchor serfs get angry over this, and my lawyer serf serve you a cease and desist for this disgrace.
I didn't know your lawyer serves. That's so awesome! Hey, I'm gonna go join him. Cowabunga, dudes!
Anyway, while I do have quite the attachment to Polly, especially since I used to go to raves when I was younger, the entire cast is a delight, and every single one has personality in spades, beyond even normal game standards. They all have their quirks, yes, but they also behave far more human than you would expect from mere monsters. Scott never fails to make me laugh by completely missing the point, but he's just such a good boy, you can't fault him for it. And dear God, Miranda's constant abuse of power never got old for me. She's just so unaware that she's doing it, and she also calls all the other monsters out on their bad decisions. These characters are just a blast, and their dialogue trees are hilarious to the point where I was laughing out loud most of the time that I was playing the game.
Yeah, all of the main love interests are a ton of fun. I contribute a lot of this to the game's writing. We've got the game's main designer Julian Quijano, as well as Corey O'Brien and Maggie Herskowitz to thank for pumping these characters with as much life as humanly possible. Ironic, I know. And it's not just the main 6 who get to shine. There's also the Coven, a group of 3 witches who go off fighting evil and saving the world. The Interdimensional Prince, a being from another dimension who goes around asking a bunch of characters to marry him, and he's also voiced by ProZD, so you just know he's great. And then there's Leonard, an obnoxious kappa whose basic role in the game is to be annoying to literally everyone and whine about SJWs and other nonsense. He's basically a stereotype of neckbeards, and he's great as such. He even has a Star Wars t-shirt on, which gets a thumbs up from me, since there can never be enough digs at that cesspool of a fanbase.
The majority of this is just in the base game, and while the amount of characters can seem a bit overwhelming to first-time players, the beauty is that a large portion of the events in the game are randomized, and so you won't always see every character in one playthrough. The fact that all of these characters are fully fleshed out is amazing though, and that leads us to the characters added in the DLC, which is quite a lot.
The main thing to note in regards to the DLC is the 2 added love interests. Zoe, an eldritch monster who is the reincarnation of the evil Zagord, who naturally is a fandom-obsessed otaku, because those things obviously go together. And finally, there's Calculus, the Hewlett-Packard version 1.0, a library computer who gained sentience as a robot in his quest to love like a human would. Or I guess in this game's case, like any other monster would.
Offended. I am just as monster or human as anyone else. My succulent Robert Plant and I are going to go for a walk as I pull up the file for the Sad Hulk theme.
Don't worry, big guy, you're one of us for sure. I mean, I hope you are anyway, since that'd make my Calculatrix Brian ships really awkward.
Excuse me, madame. Would you like to take my hand and embark on the wondrous ride that is marriage?
I don't think so, nefarious space cretin. Zagord, Zoe, is not to be enjoyed by the likes of you!
Can all of you please go away already? I think we're going a little overboard with these gags then.
Well, they are a ton of fun, aren't they?
Okay, yeah, no, they are, but we have a review to do, so make like Monty Python and get on with it!
Well, anyway, this cast is just bursting with life, and the DLC adds even more to the table, latching onto the main game and allowing you to interact with more zany characters than before. They're just so much fun to interact with, and I can't single out any character that I feel is outright bad, aside from Leonard, but again, that was the point.
I agree. And what helps with all of this is that all of the characters are given even more life with the voices they are given. Granted, there's not much voice acting in the game, but what we do get is hella fun to listen to. The game brings a nice variety of talent from both voice actors and YouTubers. This includes online content creators such as Aaron Hansen from the Game Grumps, who voices Scott, Takahata101 from Team 4-Star, voicing the coach, who is literally just Tony the Tiger, Name Wants to Battle, who's the voice of Liam, and freaking Jacksepticeye voicing Calculester. From the voice actor side of things, we've got Christina V, who voices Vera and Joy from The Coven, Christine Marie Cabanos, who voices Miranda, and Sarah Williams, who voices Best Girl Polly.
While these voice actors have small roles, they all inject tons of personality into these characters, and the little touches, like Miranda's singing like a Disney princess, or Polly's "Yes, Queen," just adds all that much more to the game. I do wish they could have added larger lines, like what Danganronpa did in the daily life segments, but that probably would have been a bit pricier than they could afford. Still, the talent is on display, and I applaud the voice work.
But that said, I think we've talked long enough about the premise and characters. I mean, understandably so, since they're the main hook of the game, but with that said, let's move on to the gameplay. And honestly, with this being a dating sim, there isn't really much to discuss. You start off choosing between one of the 4 playable characters, of whom I always play as the Frankenstein monster girl Vicky, and then you are given a few weeks to try and woo one of the 8 love interests. The amount of weeks varies depending on how you play. You can choose to play either a short game or a full game, with short games lasting for 2 in-game weeks and full games lasting for 3. Or if you're playing solo, full games end up lasting for 5 weeks given the fact that you're playing by yourself. You fucking loner.
Of course, the game is even better when you play with friends because you can go on many different routes at once, but also because you can screw with your friends' chances at winning over their crush. This includes an added section in between every week where one of the love interests will interact with one of the players and ask about the other players, at which point the person this event is happening to can either aid their friend or absolutely screw them over. I've had games where everybody had a normal ending, I've had games where some people went for secret endings and failed due to players taking routes that blocked their progress, and I've had games where everybody screwed with everybody else. It's just more fun when you don't know the outcome, and the more people, the higher chances for random events. Also, when my group of friends get together, we voice these characters for fun, which takes longer, but adds more to the game. Thanks to all my friends who showed up to help us gather 4-player footage and lent their voices to the review.
I really love this system. If you were to ask me 5 years ago how a Mario Party style dating sim would be designed, I would have told you that the 2 styles simply didn't mesh and that there'd be no way to do it. But now, I see no other way it can be done aside from the way it's handled here. Picking dialogue choices that lead to secret endings, having 2 players fighting over the same love interest and screwing each other over in order to get to them first, and cutting each other off from gaining more stats by going to a location before they do. It's all terrific stuff. Oh yeah, we kinda glossed over that, didn't we? At the start of the game, you partake in Monster Prom's stupidest pop quiz ever, where you answer 3 questions, or 4 in second term, to determine not only which love interest you'll have the highest chance of romancing, but to also determine your stats for the game. From this point, these stats can be increased by going to a different location on the map, each of which give you extra points for each of the individual stats.
These stats affect the outcomes of dialogue events that pop up at each location. Once you arrive at a location and gain your stats, one of your love interests and a friend shows up, and you have to choose a dialogue box that corresponds to your love interest, but also one that is focused on a specific stat. For example, if you choose an option that's super fun, it uses the fun stat, and if your stat is high enough, you gain stat boosts. However, you can't tell just by looking which is the corresponding stat sometimes, and it is possible to fail and lose points. It's a fun guessing game although many of us in the group sessions tended to favor the funnier option just because it made for an interesting outcome even if we failed the event. Another cool thing is that you can even add your own modded dialogue paths that lead to some interesting routes of your own. My friend Aaron Mills made a Scooby-Doo mod that references Jabberjaw and involves a shark drummer and other such crazy shenanigans. You can add your own artwork to the game as an ending still too, although it doesn't get added to the main artwork gallery for the game. Mods are automatically downloaded if you subscribe to the person's page, and they can easily be turned on and off in the main menu if you so choose. This game just adds all sorts of fun ways to add to the multiplayer fun. In our session, we went through one of the Scooby-Doo routes by buying the Scotty Snacks item in the store, and we were laughing the entire time. I have to say, you did a fantastic job, Aaron. Thank you so much for letting us play the mod.
Overall, Monster Prom's gameplay is a ton of fun, and like I stated earlier, I simply can't imagine a multiplayer dating sim looking any differently now. There's so much on offer here in terms of content and writing that I just want to see more and more.
I agree. I think the single player is fine on its own and worth the purchase, but the multiplayer just adds so much more and becomes a draw for any group of friends. So Phil, shall we talk about the presentation of the game?
Absolutely. First and foremost, like it even needs saying, this game has some fucking style. The artwork of the game is brimming with so much personality while also being just cute as heck. The character art has a very Western style inspiration to it, and each character sprite is a joy to look at. Especially when the outfits change not only for the different areas, like the gym and auditorium, but also for certain times of the year, like spooky outfits in October and winter outfits in December. I'm especially fond of Polly's winter outfit where she wears a sweater with the word Santa's favorite hoe written on it, which is both hilarious and... no, that's just it makes me laugh.
Personally, I love the artwork you get for each of the endings. Each path leads to something different. There are normal endings where you go to the prom with your crush, but then there's secret endings like the reverse Romanian Wilkinson with Polly, or the ghost ending with the sheet, or even the corpse ending. Each one gives you a new artwork that is funny or pretty to look at. You also unlock artwork for the gallery the more you play the game, which includes artwork from the endings, the Polaroids from the credits, which are specific to the pairings that occurred in your playthroughs, and artwork of monster sonas from the Kickstarter, and so much more. There's a ton of art to unlock, and it's all really well done. As for the art during the game, I love it as well, since it has the same style as Danganronpa, and each character pops in each scene.
It's a very pretty game to look at. Moving on to the audio, we already discussed the voice acting, so what do you think of the soundtrack, Zen?
To be perfectly honest, this is the first game I've reviewed where I really like the music. It has a very rocking feel to it, and each song stands on its own, although I do have to confess that the main theme on the title screen got a bit repetitive after a few playthroughs, mostly because I had to listen to it while setting up for each game, and it started to annoy me just a bit. Still, I highly enjoy the in-game music and the ending theme, which reminds me of the opening theme song to Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a movie that I really need to cover at some point. It has this 80s summer movie feel that really works. So yeah, overall, I liked it a lot, despite the repetition.
Bit of a fun fact about the soundtrack, it ended up being completely overhauled in April of this year. The reason given is that they wanted to commission a soundtrack that was specifically for Monster Prom, which would improve their collaboration with content creators for the future. I can commend them for doing this, and I do like the updated OST a fair bit, but if I'm gonna be honest, I did prefer the original soundtrack. I know you can't speak for the Zen since you haven't been playing the game for all that long, but I simply love the original soundtrack that the game had. It exudes that 80s summer feel even more, and it was one of my favorite parts of the presentation. This new OST in comparison is still very good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like a little bit of that feeling has been lost. That includes the menu theme, which I think was way better in the original. I'm sorry, but the new version just does nothing for me. The credits theme stayed the same though, and thank God, cause I love 15 minutes. It's the perfect encapsulation for the tone of the game, and it works so damn well. Oh, also, just wanted to give a quick mention to the ending theme for the Prankmasters ending, wherein Polly and Scott summon Zagor to pull a prank on the school, and accidentally end up dooming the whole world. What follows is a rap duet performed by Aaron and Sarah as their characters, as they rap about how great they are as pranksters, while the Polaroids show everyone else fighting Zagor and dying by its hands. It's shocking, hilarious, cool, and it has the lyric "We've been spending all our lives living in a prankster's paradise," so it gets an absolute thumbs up from me.
Prankmasters, doing pranks and causing disasters. Prankmasters, sacrificing to locked up masters.
Overall, I was pleasantly surprised by Monster Prom. I kept hearing about it from Rosen and Aaron all the time in the past few years, but when we actually played a few rounds together, I had the time of my life. Playing it again for this review has firmly cemented this game as one of my favorite multiplayer games, and I don't play too many of those these days. It's entertaining, it's hilarious, and it has tons of charm. I think it takes dating sims to the next level, in the same way that Doki Doki and Honey Pop did, but made it more accessible and a bit less pervy. It's just an all-around good time, and I highly recommend it. Personally, I give Monster Prom a big Kana stamp of approval. I have very few problems with the game. Some sequences get repetitive because the dialogue options don't always change, and I feel like it's something you only play every once in a while because games go on pretty long for 4 players, but those are minor annoyances compared to how much I enjoy the game. What do you think, Phil?
Monster Prom is by far and away my favorite dating sim. I know that isn't saying much considering my opinions on the genre, so let me reiterate by saying that Monster Prom is exactly the kind of game that I want out of a dating sim. It's funny, cute, witty, charming, and it's anything but by the numbers. Most dating sims focus way too hard in placing you in the shoes of the nameless protagonist and making you this irresistible chick magnet in order to get as many nude CGs as possible. And don't get me wrong, I love me some anime boobs, and dicks, just as much as the next person does, but you gotta write some good dialogue along with it. Too many dating sims go for the most cookie cutter, copy paste generic dialogue you can think of. And Monster Prom doesn't do that. It turns the self-awareness and snark up to 11, and it just has fun with itself. And for that, I commend it wholeheartedly. And yeah, from a game perspective, this also has to be one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. I have played this a ton with my friends over the past year and a half, and it is a must play at parties that either they or I host. Also, can I just say how good the LGBT rep in this game is? Your playable character can have their pronouns changed to he, her, or they no matter which character it is, even though 2 of them are obviously supposed to be male characters, and the other 2 are supposed to be female. Well, actually, yours is non-binary, but that's beside the point. And on top of that, you can date any of the main characters as any of these playable characters, which leads to all the gay ships you can think of. Heck, aside from Oz, there's even more characters in the game who are canonically non-binary, and that makes me so damn happy. I usually come down hard on shows or games that have their LGBT characters as monsters, since othering ourselves is the last thing we should be doing in media. But that's for stories that have humans present in them, and Monster Prom doesn't have a single one in sight. The game's rep is absolutely terrific. So yeah, overall, this one's a keeper for me.
Yeah, I also have to applaud the LGBT representation. You could pick your gender from day 1 in the game, and that's just amazing for someone like me because, as I mentioned before, my dad doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that I'm trans, and while my mom and sister are doing their best, it's not always easy to deal with. Having a game like this that pushes the message of gender identity being whatever you want it is a huge help for me. It's a very inclusive experience, and I applaud it for that.
All that's left now is to answer whether or not the game is worth completing or not, but before I hand that over to you, Zen, here's a quick note on the Switch version to those who are curious. The Switch version is a very good port of the game that adds in everything from both the base game and the DLC, only now you can take the game on the go. The Switch's portability has done wonders for many games in the past, and I think it does wonders for this one as well. With that said though, the performance isn't as up to snuff with the PC version as I would have liked. This isn't too big of a deal, but it did cause two issues at some points in my playthrough with my friends. The first is that a few of the CGs for the different locations in the school you go to didn't pop up at all when going to them no matter how long we waited. This didn't happen too many times, but it did happen enough times for me to notice. Similarly, there were also 2 or 3 times when the music just stopped looping and we were left with no music in the background until the next song came in and took over. These issues only happened a few times during our playthroughs, but it's something that I hope gets patched regardless, if it hasn't been patched already. Oh, also the load times are longer, but that's to be expected. There was also an ending for Scott that was changed in the Switch version due to the reference to cocaine. Not a problem by any means, but it's definitely worth taking note of if you're going to pick this version up. Despite my issues, it is a good version of Monster Prom, and having it on the go is definitely a plus. I just hope the game gets patched to fix up the technical issues that I ran into.
As for the PC version, it is a very smooth running game, although Phil and I ran into an issue when recording footage. When playing solo or with just the two of us, the recording in Streamlabs OBS came out fine with no real issues, but when we had a 4-player game or a game we were screen sharing to others on Discord, the game stuttered like crazy for the first 2 to 3 minutes before it stabilized for the most part. We experienced minor slowdown afterwards in some places, but not nearly as bad as before. I know this most likely won't be an issue for some of the other PC games that I have planned coming up because those are all single player, but if any of you know how to stop this issue, please let us know. It's a shame to have all of this wonderful footage of all of us cracking jokes and have it just stutter and skip frames at times. Alrighty, now it is time to answer the driving question of this series. Should you complete Monster Prom? At this time, I have to answer with a big, fat
Nope.
Here's the thing. Monster Prom is not a game that was created for completionists, and that became readily apparent the moment I started my own run-throughs of this game. Getting all the endings wasn't too horrible, since while there are over 60, if you include the normal and the secret endings, you also earn the endings that other players get as well. So if you're doing a bunch of 4-player games, getting all the endings isn't too time consuming if your friends are helping you out. In my case though, I let my friends choose their route and have fun with it, so it took a bit longer to get endings since everyone was going after a different path, and unfortunately, we failed the secret ending checks a few different times since we weren't always looking up what the stat check was. Honestly, I would personally recommend taking your time with these endings anyway, because there are some really good ones, and not knowing how to trigger them or when they are triggered is all part of the fun. However, then there are the events and the outcomes of the game, which are tallied after each playthrough. There are 574 different events in the game and 2,030 different outcomes to acquire in order to fully complete the game. In the course of 5 playthroughs, each of them the longest game mode, totaling 12 hours of in-game time, we only unlocked 116 different events and 116 different outcomes. You do the math. This game is not meant to be completed. I mean, there are even events that are locked to either the base game or locked to the DLC, so completing both tallies takes longer because of that. That's just the in-game tally, mind you. The achievements for the game include getting all events and outcomes, in addition to other achievements for doing specific things in the game, such as only going to the bathroom for each event, or purchasing specific items at the store with in-game currency. I'm gonna be real with you here, people. I haven't completed this game yet, and I wasn't planning on doing it for this review. I love this game, really I do, but to fully complete Monster Prom is a task that is going to take months, if not years, to fully do everything, especially because they keep adding content to the game. It's just not feasible to do for this review, especially because we honestly just wanted to promote this game, and we only had a few months in which to gather the footage for this review. It is so much fun, but completing it is work, plain and simple. I came here to enjoy this game, so we are not adding it to the completion pile today. As of now, it is just in progress. We may complete it in the future if we get that far, but for now, for the first time on this show, I'm gonna say you should not complete this game. It is a hard no for me. Still, it has that kind of stamp of approval for a reason. Go out and play it with your friends. Monster Prom is distributed by those awesome guys and can easily be found on Steam along with the DLC. Personally, I bought the game in all DLC for only $8, but that was during the Steam Summer Sale, which is highly intoxicating and dangerous if you don't have a lot of money in your wallet. With that being said though, the game goes on sale all the time, and you should find it for around the same price sooner or later. Even still though, the game is fairly cheap for the amount of content you get, with its normal asking price of $16 for everything. This is a game that is well worth its price tag and has far more content than Quest for Booty for around the same price. However, the Switch version is also rather cheap and easy to find, so feel free to buy whichever version is easier for you.
And luckily for Monster Prom, it not only has a bright future ahead of itself as a game, but also as a series. Not too long after the first game became a success, Beautiful Glitch began a Kickstarter for a sequel titled Monster Prom 2 Holiday Season. Changing things up from the first game, this sequel was going to feature 3 different modes: Monster Camp, Monster Retreat, and Monster Road Trip. The game got funded and met all of its stretch goals, again, but as time went on, Monster Camp apparently became so big that it became its own game entirely, and that is now what we know as Monster Prom 2. While Monster Retreat and Monster Road Trip are now their own separate game titled Monster Memories, which itself is going to include DLC. Additionally, we're getting a version of the original game titled Monster Prom Reversed, where the playable characters are Zoe, Damien, Calculesta, and Dahlia, who's another NPC from the original game. And your goal this time around is to romance the original 4 playable characters: Oz, Amira, Brian, and best girl Vicky. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, with Monster Camp in particular supposedly coming out this month. But just to get real meta here, we're recording this well in advance of October, so we don't know if it's actually out yet or not. So, future me, is the game out yet? It's literally out today. How did we time this so well? Cool, thanks for notifying us. In any case though, I can't wait to finally jump into the sequel, as well as the spin-offs, and see all of these characters again. Although I assume it'd be a while before we cover them, right Zen?
Yeah, definitely. Don't get me wrong, I want to play them as well, assuming the fourth wall is fixed by then after you broke it, but I've got other things to cover on should you complete this first.
Oh, you mean like Fate Stay Night?
Please, like I'd cover a game that's split into 3 parts and is part of a franchise more convoluted than even Kingdom Hearts.
What?
I'm not reviewing Fate.
Why?
Because it'd take too long.
Yeah, if you're thinking of the whole franchise, but covering Stay Night won't take that long at all, especially in regards to the visual novel.
Oh, what? You mean the 100-hour-long visual novel?
Yeah, but the 3 routes in the visually go for like 30 hours apiece.
Sorry, man, but it just ain't happening. Besides, I want to cover Danganronpa before I get into any other visual novels.
Zen, if you don't review Fate, I'm just gonna go tell Linkara to review it instead.
Fine by me. If that's what you want, go do it.
Gladly.
In any case, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and I will see you all next time. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that you too can join the Bun Squad. my legion of cute, fluffy bunnies that watch my videos, and don't forget to hit the bell so that you get notified of every new video. Have a good one, everybunny.
Okay, so the thing is, Linkara told me that in order for me to get him to cover Fate, I'd have to pledge to his Patreon. And I'm kind of broke at the moment, so that's off the table.
What? No. I'm still not reviewing Fate, though. Anyway, I'm gonna go get the next video ready for you to edit. Talk to you later.
I'll get you to review it sooner or later, Zen. Well, either that or I'll get enough money to pledge to Linkara's Patreon. That's only a backup, though. Why does no one want to review Fate? Like, yeah, it's long, but it's good, damn it. Maybe I should get around to making that long-ass video.
Hey, Mommy! I know you've been busy lately, but I really wanted to... Who are you?
Oh, hi, you must be Kana. I've heard so much about you from Zen. Didn't really think she was serious for a while about you and Chiaki being able to talk, but nah, whatever. I'm Filip, Zen's editor.
Hi, pretty editor. Ooh, I love your hair. It's pink, soft, and fluffy. It's all my favorite things rolled into one. Well, all my favorite things apart from snacks. Can I touch it?
Sure, if you want.
Yay! Fluffiness!
Very well, Kana. I wasn't done talking to you. Who's he?
Oh, he says his name is Filip. He's a friend of Mommy's and also her editor. Also, his hair is pink, fluffy, and he's letting me touch it. Isn't he great?
Yeah, great. Anyway, we don't have time for that, Kana. If you want to perfect your training, we can't keep slacking off. So come along and you can talk to the man with weird hair later.
Wow, I can tell you're nice.
Aww. Sorry, pretty editor, but I have to go.
No worries. We'll have plenty of time to talk later anyway. I think I'm gonna start hanging around here more often. It's easier to talk with Zen this way, and I would like to get to know you two more. You go on ahead and do whatever you need to do.
Okay. Bye, pretty hair.
Kana and Chiaki, huh? They seem nice. Well, Kana does anyway. Something's off about Chiaki. How did Zen say they were able to talk again?
遮る本能そいつが言うにはどうか互換だと誘惑従いされごとに溺れ出した王様ゲーム強制参加上意見なんて禁じくれない課せられたクエストにはあの物心で絶望ラスやもまみれ少年に逃げ込んだ現実はなかった欲望ないとか偽り偽善者ぶっても仕方ねえや憧れた夢なんだけヒーローになりたいのプップップ願い口にする愛に行くばかり続けるってするはないよ